我的天哪, these myths really bother me. But today, let me address each one of them.
You don't have to learn the tones when you learn Chinese.
不好意思,先生, tones do matter. Tones are part of the word. If you leave the tone out when you're saying the word, you lose the meaning. It's likely you won't be understood at all. Please, when you learn words, learn the tones at the same time. Think of it more like the way we think of pronunciation and rhythm. We say apple. We have a higher tone on the a part, apple. If you say apple or apple, you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, but you're also changing the tone. Tones are part of the words and they do matter.
Chinese doesn't have any grammar.
中文真的没有语法吗? Chinese doesn't have grammar. You know, this is funny because I've even heard Chinese people say this. They think that Chinese doesn't have any grammar, but that's, of course, because it's their first language, so they just speak it naturally. Chinese has grammar. It's just different from Western grammar in that the verbs aren't conjugated, but it does have word order, sentence structure. You need to learn Chinese grammar. Now, there are very natural ways to do it, and there are unnatural ways to do it. So, of course, you should pick the most natural, most effective way to do it, but don't make the mistake of thinking Chinese has no grammar.
Well, nowadays, you don't really need to learn to write Chinese.
Okay, with this one, I would say you don't need to learn to write right away, but I would start pretty soon, even if you ease into it gradually. Well, there's a principle you probably already know that listening for comprehension helps your speaking, and therefore speaking also helps your listening comprehension. Well, the same thing is true with reading and writing. You should practice writing because that will actually speed up your reading. So, yes, we do have apps now that will just take dictation, but you still have to be able to pick the right characters. And I have personally found that practicing writing a little bit every day actually speeds up my reading comprehension. And that's a part you don't want to neglect when you're learning Chinese because that's a way you can practice.
All you have to do is learn Mandarin, and then you'll be able to understand all the other dialects.
I don't know where this one comes from. Mandarin is the most widely spoken dialect of Chinese, but there are many other dialects, Cantonese, Hakka, Minanyu, Minbeiyu. There are many different dialects, and just learning Mandarin won't automatically mean you can understand these other dialects. Mandarin is the most spoken dialect, and I think the second one is probably Cantonese. If you're interested in these other dialects, though, you're going to have to learn them separately. But I would still recommend starting out with Mandarin first unless you have a specific reason why you need to learn another dialect, like you work in an area where that dialect is spoken. And another thing, even the writing is different. That's right, because the grammar is sometimes different in these dialects. And so the writing is different to reflect that. And sometimes they even use different characters.
There are no tenses in Chinese. Everybody just speaks in the present tense.
Okay, with this one, we do need to be a little bit careful. There are no specific tenses or verb conjugations in Chinese. But to say that Chinese are always speaking in the present tense is not correct. There are ways of indicating all sorts of different conditions, past, present, future. Sometimes you can add an article, for example, le, but this is not past tense. If you add le, it means a completed action, but it could be completed in the future. So try not to think in terms of tenses. Think in terms of words that indicate the time frame in which you're talking. Sometimes it's as simple as saying something like 昨天, yesterday, or 明天, tomorrow. That will do it. But there's always a way to understand when you're talking about in Chinese, even though you don't have verb ending conjugations. Hope you enjoyed today's video on these myths. There are obviously a lot of other ones. What are the ones that bother you most? Tell me in the comments. And as always, if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and pass it along to your friends too. We'll see you in the next one. 我们一起加油，再见。